Yate. Thank you for joining us today for this wonderful event in celebration of Native American Heritage Month. I am Abigail Kerman. I am from the Diné Tribe and Office Assistant for Native American Affairs in the Department of Multicultural Affairs. This afternoon we have Delbert Anderson. He's from the Navajo Nation and will embrace the audience of healing aspects and of improvisation and commonalities of Native American history. Native and other cultures use powerful healing components to endure hardship, respect, listen, and express. There are some surveys on the tables. Please fill them out as it helps us bring more presenters like these. Furthermore, please welcome Delbert Anderson.
So we'll go ahead and get started. By the way, this is very informal. It is an improv sort of workshop, so we're going to do just that. We'll probably start off with a tune, just kind of get everyone tuned in and get your artistic side flowing through with sound and everything, and we'll go ahead and kind of take a dive into the sheets that you have in front of you. And there is a little activity that we'll do at the bottom half, so just try to keep that clear for later on. And if you don't have a sheet, they're up here in the front. Cool. This song is called Tuakta, and Tuakta is Farmington, where we come from. Farmington is our hometown, Farmington, New Mexico. And Tuakta means, tuak means water, and ta means sort of like between. And Farmington actually has 3 rivers that combine into one: the Ananis River, San Juan River, and La Plata River. And they were the rivers were a big source to, our ancestors. It was the traditional lands of the Diné Pekea, basically, Diné people's land, but there's also many tribes that were passing through and that were in the surrounding areas, like Ute, Pueblo, Southern Ute. So there was a bunch of tribes that were involved with Farmington, but this is that song. Alrighty. Woo! Man, we just ate, so it's it's a lot of work. So the topic of today is healing through arts, and I just wanted to make it or to note that there's a lot of different ways to healing, and part of it depends on the situation, depends on what you're going through, where you're at in your time of life. So there's a lot of these things, and I'm not saying this is the only way, but it's a way that some of my ancestors, and especially what I use today to get through everyday life, really. And it's so amazing to finally be able to talk about the sort of the pillars of what I like to call the pillars of improvisation and how to utilize that in your walk in this life. And especially when we run into problems or situations where it seems like you just want to quit or give up. And so this is very good for those types of situations. And I'm just going to kind of run through these really quick. I think we only have about an hour. Then we'll do a little activity and maybe some questions. But the first thing, and I'm so glad that Travis came in, because we started talking about like a form of respect, and that's the very first thing that we have to realize in this journey, especially when we want to use it as healing, is that we have to respect the situation. We have to take it seriously. We can't just kind of blow it off or say, oh, well, I'll take care of it later. Like the old trick when you get a bill, just because you put it away and say, oh, I didn't open it, doesn't mean you have a bill anymore, right? It's still there, and it's getting worse the longer you leave it. So just having respect and acknowledging the situation is very important. Care, every situation of our lives, we should put forth this extent of caring, or whatever you're passionate about. When you care, that's when things start to, because you care, these negative situations happen. Because you wouldn't call it negative if you didn't care. If you didn't care, then, whatever happens, happens. But because you care, that's when we start to have feelings or attachments to these situations. So it's important that you care and under respect. Point of views, keeping an open mind. There are other people that go through a lot more situations than you do. Some people probably went through your situation before. So it's always important to respect the point of view of a different person. If you look at it in a band sense, if I say, okay, let's jam in the key of C, and then Mike jams in the key of E flat, I can't just keep playing in my key and say, okay, he can do his own thing. It wouldn't work. It would sound funky. It wouldn't sound right. It would sound off. But what I could do is, if Mike's going to be playing in this different key, I could go to his key and voila, it works. Or he can do what I said the first time and play in the key of C, and it works. So there has to be, you have to respect the point of views of different people. And especially, I know a lot of us, we go through like therapy, or we might speak to a friend. It's always important to really give them credit and really let them say what they want to say, because like I said, I believe, we all come from different backgrounds, the trio, and, Mike is a lot more experienced in collaborations because he plays so many different genres. And when Nick and I are kind of like, how are we going to do this, or what style, or whatever, it's really good to ask Mike, like, hey, what do we have going on here? And he would explain it to us. And we like to call Mike just, the wise guy of the group. He's very direct and always like, we got to do this, we got to do this. And we respect that because he has experience and he knows situations that we haven't got into, I hope. And the other thing, that this is a very, very hard thing to do, respecting the system. And, systems, and I put a little note there, systems relating to things that we cannot change immediately. If you get pulled over by a cop and he gives you a ticket, you have to respect that. You have to respect the system that you were going over the speed limit, therefore you get a ticket. You can't just say, oh, I don't care, whatever, whatever. He might arrest you if you start giving him attitude. So it's the respect of the system, the respect of the situation. And a lot of times, the reason why a lot of us tend to give up really quick is because we don't respect it, or we give up because we don't have the open mind. We don't, respect that system. I like to say it's kind of like there's a gentleman he was born in the 1870s, I believe, kind of late 79. His name was Jacob C. Morgan, and he was a Navajo cornetist, very well accomplished. He even toured with the Sousa Band at one point, just very high profile. But there was so many of his tribes and government and churches that didn't like him because he respected the system. He was saying, these are things we can't change now, but if I can respect the system, I can get into the system and then change the system within. And so that was what he was all about. He knew a lot of like the boarding schools and all of these things were very wrong, but he said that's back then boarding schools in some areas was the law. They gave you a choice. You either send your kids to boarding school or you go to that's where all the mass murders and everything started. So it was a very hard choice. So everyone obviously let's do the boarding schools. But he was trying to put more, he was trying to make the boarding schools better. So he was for education and getting all of these, the young Diné children education. He was for that, but he wasn't for the other things about it. But because he said we do need education in our young children's lives, he was disrespected for it. They tried to hide his history, all of these things. So it's very important, and I think, a lot of times we live in a time now where we have this super warrior spirit where it's my way or the highway, where, whatever I say is going to go. I'm not going to pay attention to any kind of forms or colonization time, all of these things. It's very easy to get in that. But what I'm saying is when you approach it from this point of respect, you're going to be a lot more influential. You're going to be able to change your situation a lot quicker. It's, some of those who didn't, like I said, when they didn't agree to the boarding school systems or didn't agree to the Roman Catholic teaching of the time, they were hung. That was it. They were done. But those who worked with the system were able to stay alive, and guys like Jacob C. Morgan start popping up and all of these very famous Native American musicians started popping up all over the place because they agreed to the system. And they changed it later. It took a long time, but the fact was they were still going, they were still alive. So respecting the system, and it's something that's very hard to do at the time. Let's just go to listening. Listening is very different than hearing something. When you hear, you could put on your headphones and listen to whatever music you're listening to and do dishes or clean a room. That's kind of like hearing, that's just for pure enjoyment. But listening in this sense of improvisation and trying to heal yourself, your listening has to go here. Like it has to be installed in your heart, your soul, however you look at it. It can't just go in the ear and out the other. You really have to process it. And the first thing there says process and pay attention to the subject matter. Just really listening and looking at it from all different angles, because when your nose is so close to a situation, you forget what the big idea is. We do that a lot in meetings. We'll have a meeting for fundraising, and then it's about some kids who broke into whatever. It just gets off subject. And that's what happens when you dive too deep and there's no focus in there. So really listening and getting an idea of what's going on, whatever situation you have, listening to it, really caring about it. Where do you fit? Basically, you have to position yourself, and this kind of comes to where you're admitting to it, or you're really accepting what's happening. And it could be a very hard thing, because where are you at on this big scale of this situation? Are you the guy in trouble? Are you up top? Do you have a good handle on things? And that can be very hard if you don't have enough experience in situations. We always like to say with our band, we know that a lot of musicians who've been doing it for a long time, they understand a lot of meaning, and they just know so much knowledge, and they're way up here. And when we look at us, we're like, okay, we're probably here because we haven't had that much experience. We're still trying to figure ourselves out. And so in a way, we know where we're at on this big scale of the music industry. And it's the same thing. You have to know where you stand in these situations that we go through. Is it close? Is it to the point where we are going to quit? Do we have a handle? Do we know what we're going to do? You just have to have a good idea of where you're at, because the next move is it's very important to where you stand. Then we start to align ourselves with this situation that we have going on, and really putting yourself in a position where you can start to move forward or start to act upon this situation that you're going through. For us, we practice. We try to practice once a week. That could be a way of us preparing for a performance. We are working slowly toward sort of an end goal, and it's just we're placing ourselves for success. That's that we're going to place ourselves to make this move. And then when we start to get to the expressive part, this part is very it's very different. Everyone handles it differently. I always like to say, when you're expressing something, this is where the arts come into play. It's really good to have an instrument. Maybe you're a writer, a singer, or who knows, maybe your hobby is bowling or whatever it might be. You need something there that you can attach to, something that or you're familiar with, that you can hang on to during these times. If you try to do something else or doing something you don't know, you're just creating more anxiety for yourself, or you might feel like you're not good enough for something. So it's always important to have something you can express, like an outlet. For me, it's my my trumpet. There's times where I'll just, if I'm so frustrated and just a lot of things going on and I'm just about to lose it, I'll just go in there and And the reason why I express it that way is because I can actually feel like this part vibrate where it's like, where it's hurting or where it's stressful. If I'm like stressful in like the back of my head, it sounds differently. I know my instrument well enough to where I need to heal myself, basically. So it's very, very interesting. That's expressing, that's just getting, that's like our venting, our way to vent. And, like I said, arts, pick up an instrument and learn these things. Because there's a lot of times when doing all of that stuff, where it came in handy later in a piece of music or composition-wise, I said, oh yeah, I remember how that felt, and maybe I can bring that back, but make it a little more appealing. And so that's when you start to actually heal using the arts, is when you make these connections with this your art form or whatever you use to express. Very important. Expressing, basically, you're coming to terms with the moment. You're realizing what's wrong. I think there was let's see, back in May, this trumpet was actually stolen. And then I remember the next day, like, how am I, and I had like a week residency coming up the very next day, and my horns were all gone. And I was just there thinking, like, I was still in La La Land, like, what am I gonna do? Like, this is messed up, this is crazy. And I even thought of like quitting music for like 5 minutes and just kind of like, I just want to go home and work somewhere and get my mind off of everything. But then I started to really come to terms, especially when the bus came to pick me up to go to the residency. I was like, okay, I don't have my horns. My horns are gone. This is the facts. This is what's happening. So I acknowledged the problem. And when I acknowledged it, it felt like so good. And the people that were there, and especially the leader of the residency, she told me, she was like, okay, now we know what's wrong. Let's fix it. Don't worry about it. And I just felt so much better when I just, laid it on them, like, okay, guys, my horns are gone. I don't know how I'm going to do the residency or whatever. And it was fine. And I believe it was because of all of the positivity, the support group that was there, playing jazz music already, and kind of there, I was just kind of like, man, I had a horn that I didn't know, a mouthpiece that I wasn't comfortable with, and I was trying to play, but everyone was like, no, it's okay, and it got into this really cool support group, and by the end, like, I felt like I didn't lose anything. And then 2 weeks later, it popped up on Craigslist. so we got that, and then the cops got the robber, and he got my other trumpet because I had 2 trumpets stolen. And so I got those things back, and it just shows it all worked out. And that's the one thing is, if you just keep moving forward. I mean, even if I didn't have my instruments back, I think that end concert was like worth it. I would have still been happy. Yeah, I might have been like, man, I wonder where my trumpet is and stuff. But it's okay. It's going to be okay. And I think a lot of times when we run into this stop thing or this difficult situation, we just cut it off to where, it could have been the best thing that happened to us, and we don't realize it. But, that's just another thing is express. Forward motion. In theater, when they improvise, they always tell you to never say no. I think that was like one of their rules, is because when you're improvising, do you like tea? Yes. What kind of tea? I don't know. Maybe banana? Why do you like bananas? But if they were like, if you started that conversation over, do you like tea? And they say no, then that just kind of stops all purpose of the conversation. So moving forward, I'm not saying stop. There's a difference between stopping and breaking. A break is, we do that in music. They're called like rests. They're not really a break, but we're still moving forward. We're just deciding not to really voice anything yet. And it's just very, very important that whatever we do, we're always going forward. Because like I said, once you stop And you might come to terms with stopping. It's very unhealthy. That's when things start to go very downhill for someone. So always moving. You always hear the elders saying that, I'm still alive today because I still move, I still walk around, I'm still taking out the trash and all these things. And, I had a grandmother and a grandfather like that. And my grandfather was very, he was a funny guy, and he liked to go outside and, till the land and plant and all these kind of things. He was a very landscape-oriented guy. But I seen him one day when I came over, and he was like there carrying his shovel, and he would always go like this, and then he'll stop, and then he'll run again. And I was wondering, what is he doing? So I told him, what are you doing? And he was like, I can still feel it in my mind that I can run fast. And I was like, that wasn't fast. And he just started laughing, but he was like, no, I still feel it. So it was interesting seeing that, and I believe that kind of character, that mindset, is what kept him going for so long. He just had something, he had a goal in mind, a goal in place. And then after, sort of going through these things, respect, listening, and express, then you act upon that. This is when you start to push forward. And I like to call this section where we like to improvise. There's a lot of things, and kind of wrapping it all together. I believe it was the long walk. There's some diaries that were found that the people who were leading them on the long walk, some of the officers, would just be throwing flour to the people, to the Diné people. And they didn't really know what to do with it, so a lot of them were just eating it, just powder, flour, and putting it in their mouths. And a lot of them were getting sick. A lot of people died because, it's not healthy to do that, but, they honestly didn't know what to do with this substance. And so they started to improvise, look at, is there a better way to consume this powder? So someone got the idea, and it might have been from other tribes and different areas, but they started to put water with it, and then they made dough, and then they started to bake it or put heat to it, and then it started to become bread. And a lot of people say that's how fried bread was invented, but it's just kind of one of those funny sayings. But the idea was their circumstances were horrible. A lot of people died along the Long Walk Trail, but also there's a lot of things that came out from it that were beautiful and that are still done to this day. New songs, new prayers, food, diets, all of these things, they're still around in our culture today, but it took that messy history in order to get to that moment, and it was because they were such great improvisers at dealing with this crazy long walk that they were on, and making the very best of the situation. And that's what improvisation, I feel, is, especially when we're talking of healing, is making the situation, making it the very best as possible, utilizing what you have, what's in front of you. It's very, very important. We talked about this. Keep moving, goal-driven, no stops. Focus, use your situation to better yourself. It takes a really, smart individual and humble individual to be able to say, I went through a lot of trouble, but I'm glad I did, because I wouldn't be the person I am today without those struggles. It's very hard to admit that. It's very, very one of the toughest things to do, but it's so true. And when you look at sort of the African American ancestors and the history, a lot of people would say this great art form, jazz, that we talk about was due to all of the bad things that were happening back then. And it led to expression through song, through hymns, through all of these things and cultural collaborations, and all of a sudden, jazz came out. But there was a portion of it called improvisation where they were using it as expression. And that's when soloists started to appear, scatting started to come out. And so it's very interesting. I always like to say, like, the people who go through the most make the best artists because they have a wide experience. They know how to connect with people because of so many things. They've been through so many things. And it's just it's a very like bittersweet kind of thing. You know, I'm not saying to go put yourselves through a bad situation to get better, but you know, what I'm saying is there's no timing to tell. You never know what you don't know what's going to happen, you know, in the future, or you don't know what's waiting for you, you know. And when you have these set of skills, if you can utilize these things and know about the situation and how to improvise, it's going to make the outcome a lot differently. You'll be able to heal yourself much quicker than a lot of people would. Let's go ahead and we'll just go to the activity real quick. Sorry, I didn't know it was going to be so wordy. So take your pen, the pen that you have, and I'm going to count to 3. You're going to get 3 seconds, and I want you to quickly scribble really quick at the bottom of that blank section. Ready, go. 1, 2, 3, stop. Now I want you to pass the paper to the person next to you. Let's go to the right. So that will go that way. Yours will come over here. Yours will come there. Now this is a really good example of the system, right? You can't erase anything because it's in pen. You got what's in front of you. There's no changing that. Right? So now I'm going to give you one minute, and I want you to make something out of that scribble. Make something that people will know what it is. So try to make it familiar. Make something out of it. Ready, go. 1 minute. Thirty seconds. $15. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Alrighty. Now we don't have to go through all of them, but we'll just go through a few of them. Okay. So let's we'll start. Let's start here. So what do you have? What do you have? Oh, okay. Oh, nice. Okay, your name. Okay, so here's the first thing. So Regina she was the one who had to make something of the scribbling, and she made a woman with an umbrella. I don't know if you can see that, but it's very, very creative. Let's go to someone over here really quick. Oh, this looks like a...
That one looks nice. Yeah.
What's this one? Okay, a Christmas tree out of the scribble. Right. Let's go way back here. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Flowers.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
She's a nerd.
Let's go to Travis.
What is that, a what?
A house of
Oh, okay.
like
Like a tree and
like a bee.
like a star?
12 tribes.
Yes, and that's the tree of life.
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah.
You can interpret it any way you need to. That's fine.
Okay. The vase out of the scribble.
That was nice.
Awesome.
Really cool.
So you can go ahead and give your the papers back to the original in case they wrote those down or something.
Sweet. Oh, that is. I thought that's obviously an elephant. I thought it was some specific elephant.
Oh no. So what we all did there, what we all demonstrated was improvisation, right? I saw a tree, a Christmas tree, a woman with an umbrella, a vase. Those are all things that I know. Those are all things that we're all familiar with. And we made something out of nothing, out of chaos, really, right? No one said, this is going to be the eyes here for the woman. This is going to be the handle for the vase. You literally had to deal with what was given to you. And we all did it. We all were successful at it. And that's what this workshop is trying to teach is, you know, any situation can be useful to us. We can make something out of it. It's kind of like the saying, someone throw you lemons, make lemonade, you know, kind of one of those things. But it's on a much more personal level, you know. Preparation is something that we didn't really talk about, but, you know, preparing yourself is a form of improvisation. I'll just give you an example. I had to learn a lot of different scales, modes, and everything on the trumpet, and so when we play a song, I can refer to those if I need backup. If I need to lean on something, I can lean on the scales or the sound or my hearing training. I can, you know, really set back on that if I don't know what to do. It's kind of like, it's like a vehicle. Most vehicles have a spare, so you're not really worried if you get a flat because you can always put on your spare, but the situation sucks when you get a flat. And it requires some work, but you know, you're covered. And that's kind of the same way when you start to prepare yourselves. It might be taking more professional development classes, doing more research on certain situations. When you end up in that situation, you're going to know what to do immediately, and you'll get out of that craziness a lot faster and be able to heal yourselves. So we'll go ahead and we'll just open it up for questions. If there's no questions, maybe we can end with a tune here right quick. Any questions?
We'd probably rather hear you play.
Right. Yeah.
No, I just wanted to make a comment that thank you so much because this I think opens the eye, but I think it has to do a lot also with positivity in life. You know what I mean? And I think you emanate that positivity, and you're always so positive that makes us joyful.
Right. And you know, that's not to say I don't get upset, because I really am but you're right. It's very you know, honesty and just truth and really being humble goes a long way in the process. And I know a lot of people would say, well, you're not acknowledging it, you're just building it all up. But, you know, I have a way to vent, you know. So, you know, I tell them, no, don't worry. I mean, it's just one of those things. I know we'll get over it, whether it's time or maybe a situation will later figure itself out. But that's the biggest thing, is just knowing that, you know, everything's going to be okay. It's not the end, you know, not the end of the world. There'll be times when it feels very close and all of that kind of thing. But it's, yeah, yeah, positivity, keep moving forward. We'll go ahead and end with, oh no, I don't know, pick a key. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm on a road.
I don't have a drums, but let's do
MD? Cool. MD. That concludes the workshop today. I hope you took something away from it. But it really relates to what we do up here. It's basically what we're doing on stage in the moment and applying it to our everyday life. And part of I believe the reason why we're moving forward with so much momentum is because in a way, we're becoming ambassadors what we're building, of what we're, we really believe that the arts can heal you, and we're doing it on stage now. We're healing, literally healing ourselves. Like physically too, we just ate and I'm like blowing my brains out, and so hopefully it's killing some of those calories I put down. But you have to look at it all kinds of ways, and the art is really it's a great way to heal yourself, because your art becomes better when you start to express with it, and really turn to your art when things are not going your way. Yeah, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for Delbert? Well, thank you for the information you have presented today. Let's give him another round of applause. Our next event will be later on tonight in the Greyhound Lounge downstairs at 7 p.m. Delbert Anderson will be conducting a jazz concert and jam.
7 to 8 is the concert. We'll feature some of the trio tunes that we created.
For a grand finale of Native American Heritage Month. Thank you for supporting us. Please do not forget to fill out the surveys. Yeah, thank you and good luck on finals.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.